Ok, creo que ya es tiempo de iniciar. Pues una vez más, buenos días, bienvenidos a todos. Es un gusto estar nuevamente en un webinar iniciando el año. Hoy tenemos el gusto de compartir con ustedes este webinar de innovación tecnológica para la gestión de la estrategia. Ha sido un webinar que hemos preparado con mucho gusto. Tenemos a la participación de la compañía de Strategy Execution Company y el señor Kenneth Mack, que más en unos minutos les presentaré. Y la idea entonces es compartir con ustedes cómo la gestión de la estrategia, además de ser un elemento fundamental en el proceso de hacer realidad la estrategia en las organizaciones y que produzca los resultados, pues se potencializa cuando tenemos una plataforma de tecnología que permite utilizarla y desarrollarla de la forma más estructurada. Así que empezamos con unos slides introductorios donde les queremos contar una vez más de nuestra compañía. La mayoría de ustedes nos han acompañado en otros webinars, pero les contamos una vez más un poco de nuestra compañía. Nosotros en AMCG Consulting somos miembros de la red Tantum, una compañía que tiene una alta especialización en todo el tema de planeación, ejecución y gestión de la estrategia. Somos parte de esta red global de Tantum con una participación y presencia en varios países, particularmente en América Latina, pero también en otras geografías. En el caso particular de México, pues tenemos una participación ya y una presencia de más de 22 años realmente, haciendo proyectos de diferente naturaleza. Hemos acompañado a empresas del sector privado, a instituciones del sector público, buscando que la estrategia siempre se convierta en una realidad y genere los impactos. Y cuando hablamos del proceso que trabajamos nosotros, siempre contamos que utilizamos la metodología conocida como la excelencia de la ejecución, el Execution Premium, que básicamente está contemplada en tres grandes fases. La primera de ellas, la planeación, que involucra dos etapas. La primera, la formulación de la estrategia, y es aquella etapa en la cual las organizaciones pues establecen claramente un norte estratégico que inicia con una visión, con una misión, con un entendimiento de hacia dónde quiere ir la organización, un análisis de sus características, condiciones y situación interna, externa, análisis FODA y en general un entendimiento que le permita marcar un derrotero estratégico y norte para la organización. Luego, en el paso 2, esa visión estratégica se convierte en un modelo ejecutable, en un mapa de ruta, lo que llamamos nosotros un mapa estratégico, que por supuesto debe incorporar todos sus indicadores, todas sus métricas, todas sus iniciativas para que se convierta en un modelo ejecutable y llevar a cabo pues esta definición estratégica que se ha planteado durante la formulación. Luego viene la segunda etapa, lo que llamamos nosotros la etapa de la ejecución. Allí, en el tercer paso que muestra la metodología, lo que se hace es alinear la organización. Y cuando decimos alinear la organización, estamos hablando que una vez definido una ruta central de ruta estratégica, pues corresponde que las distintas unidades de negocio, las distintas estructuras de esa organización, pues estén alineadas debidamente con esa visión estratégica, que cada uno de esos mapas estratégicos para estas unidades correspondan con ese mapa central definido. Pero alinear a la organización también implica que los diferentes procesos, que también las unidades y que las personas en sus objetivos individuales estén debidamente alineados, incluso que los proveedores, que los clientes, que todos estos procesos claves de organización estén alineados con esa visión estratégica. Luego, en el cuarto paso, hacemos la planificación de las operaciones. Allí lo que buscamos es que los distintos procesos claves de organización estén también identificados con esa definición estratégica. Procesos claves de operación, procesos de planeación financiera, definiciones presupuestales, por ejemplo, estén debidamente alineados con esa formulación estratégica. Que, por ejemplo, se haga una asignación de recursos y que si existen procesos que no están alineados con esta definición estratégica, pues también se eliminen para asegurar que la organización se mueve en función de esa definición estratégica que se ha establecido. Luego, en lo que se llama la tercera fase, que es la de aprendizaje, y en su paso número 5, pues viene todo el proceso de monitoreo y de evaluación. Y en monitoreo lo que se hace es asegurar que existen las instancias de análisis y revisión de todo lo que se está haciendo para que fundamentalmente entendamos cuál ha sido el cumplimiento de esa definición estratégica, para que se tomen las decisiones a que haya lugar y de tal manera que se aseguren el cumplimiento de los objetivos. Esta evaluación no solo permite la evaluación del cumplimiento mismo de la estrategia, pero además incluso el cumplimiento a nivel individual de cada uno de los miembros y participantes de la organización, de tal manera que al final se den los resultados esperados. Y finalmente, en el paso sexto, en la actualización, en la integración, lo que se busca es que como parte de este proceso se vaya identificando las oportunidades de retroalimentar este desarrollo estratégico. Las organizaciones, el mundo, los negocios siempre son dinámicos y requieren que se vaya retroalimentando la definición estratégica a partir de lo que va pasando en los negocios. Así que pues este es un círculo virtuoso que lo que permite es que esa definición estratégica se convierta en un resultado específico a partir de las definiciones que se han establecido. Mencionábamos que un elemento fundamental de la traducción estratégica es el mapa de ruta, que no es otra cosa que el mapa estratégico. Literalmente es esta herramienta que en una página se puede entender exactamente cuál es el norte de la organización definido en los 4 grupos de objetivos que establece la organización. En primer lugar, los objetivos de resultado. ¿Qué queremos lograr? Aquí fundamentalmente hablamos siempre de los resultados financieros, resultados que tienen que ver con el logro de esos objetivos que los accionistas, que los directivos, que la organización misma se ha planteado y a los que se quiere llegar. Pero para obtener estos resultados es fundamental entender pues cuál es la propuesta de valor, y aquí es donde vienen los objetivos de valor agregado para nuestros clientes, objetivos que tienen que ver con el producto, objetivos que tienen que ver con el servicio, objetivos que tienen que ver con la imagen que estamos transmitiendo en esa propuesta de valor, que al final del día van a permitir tener estos objetivos de resultados. En tercer lugar, y siendo la parte más robusta de este mapa de ruta, de este mapa estratégico, están los objetivos impulsores, que son los objetivos de operación, es el cómo lograrlo. Allí lo que estamos hablando es de los objetivos core de procesos, estamos hablando de la gestión operativa, estamos hablando de la gestión de innovación, estamos hablando de la gestión con los clientes, estamos hablando de qué hay que hacer para que la compañía identifique esa propuesta de valor que en últimas va a permitir obtener los resultados. Y en la base del mapa estratégico, pues está el con qué lograrlo, que son los objetivos habilitadores. Aquí estamos hablando de los recursos y las capacidades de la organización. En términos generales, estamos hablando de los recursos desde el punto de vista de capital humano, desde el punto de vista de tecnología, desde el punto de vista de recurso. Incluso cuando estamos trabajando con instituciones del sector público, hablamos de normatividad, que hace posible que con estas capacidades se desarrollen los objetivos de nivel superior que van a permitir obtener los resultados. Una vez que la organización ha definido este mapa de ruta, ha definido este nivel de objetivos, pues cada uno de estos objetivos tiene que irse desarrollando de una manera concreta con la identificación de cuáles son los indicadores, qué vamos a medir, cómo lo vamos a medir y a partir de ello pues establecer unas metas específicas. Son las metas que nos van a permitir medir y entender si estamos llegando o no a los resultados. Pero para que se llegue a los resultados, pues estos tienen que tener, cada uno de estos objetivos tienen que tener unas iniciativas que son las acciones concretas que nos van a permitir que se desarrollen y que se lleguen a estos objetivos. Cada una de las iniciativas tendrán sus hitos, sus responsables, incluso sus recursos asignados, OPEX, CAPEX, todos los recursos que sean necesarios para que en la medida en que estas iniciativas se realicen y se concreten, pues la compañía llegará a los resultados esperados. Una vez que se ha hecho este mapa de ruta a nivel central con toda la estructura de indicadores, de resultados y de iniciativas, viene lo que llamamos el desdoblamiento de esta estrategia, que no es otra cosa que asegurar que los siguientes niveles luego de la dirección central pues estén debidamente alineados y consiste en la construcción de estos mapas de contribución, por ejemplo, de la primera línea. Estamos hablando de las distintas unidades de negocio, de las unidades de apoyo, de todas las unidades que permiten que los objetivos del nivel central se cumplan e incluso a nivel de mandos medios se desarrollan tableros de control que permiten que también estos indicadores vayan a los distintos niveles de organización para asegurar una absoluta integración y alineación vertical que se debe dar en la organización. pero incluso se tiene también la instancia de una alineación horizontal, y esta tiene que ver con las unidades que comparten proyectos, con las unidades que comparten iniciativas que tienen un carácter transversal y que en la medida que se logren, pues van a permitir que se desarrollen y que se lleguen a los objetivos centrales de la organización. Un elemento que incorporamos en el análisis de la gestión de la estrategia y que permite llegar a los resultados, pues tiene que ver con la gestión de riesgos. Cada vez que se determinan objetivos, que se determinan indicadores y que hay un plan concreto para que se lleguen a esos objetivos, pues tiene involucrado de alguna manera unos riesgos específicos. La gestión de riesgo consiste en identificar cada uno de estos riesgos que están asociados o bien con los objetivos o bien con las distintas iniciativas que se tienen que desarrollar. La gestión de riesgos consiste en no solo identificarlos, sino además tener claro cuál es precisamente esa relación que existe entre el riesgo y el beneficio que cada uno de estos objetivos, que cada una de estas acciones tiene. Es usual que en la medida que se construye un mapa de objetivos, también se construya un mapa de riesgos para identificar las acciones, las iniciativas que van a mitigar estos riesgos y que en últimas van a permitir que los objetivos se desarrollen. Al final del día, lo que estamos hablando es que tenemos un modelo integral de seguimiento que permite que, una vez definido un rumbo estratégico claramente identificado en el mapa estratégico, medido a través de sus indicadores, de metas, gestionado a través de las iniciativas, permita integrar de una manera estructurada e integral todo un proceso operativo que se da a los distintos niveles de la organización mediante un constante monitoreo, toma de decisiones y evaluación del desempeño para que a su turno retroalimente todo este proceso organizacional. En las empresas, al final del día, lo importante es que esta visión estratégica que se ha establecido produzca los resultados esperados, genere el valor agregado para que se quiere buscar. Como todos lo sabemos, un proceso como estos implica un volumen muy alto de información, involucra un seguimiento detallado de los indicadores, involucra estar muy en línea con las decisiones que se tienen que tomar y monitorear exactamente en qué situación está cada objetivo, en qué situación está cada iniciativa para poder, una vez más, como lo dije antes, tomar las iniciativas y tomar las decisiones que se requieren para asegurar que se lleguen a los resultados. Es por eso que se requiere de una plataforma de tecnología, es por eso que se requiere de unos recursos de tecnología que permitan que no tengamos que manejar todo esto a nivel de Excel, a nivel de PowerPoint, sino que la organización de una manera eficiente pueda manejar todos estos recursos. Por esa razón, estamos presentando en el día de hoy esta solución desde el punto de vista de tecnología que es ESM y que ya Kent nos va a presentar. Y para ello, y antes de su presentación, me voy a permitir contarles un poquito quién es Kent, y para eso voy a hacer el switch a inglés. Así que Kent, I will make the switch to English to introduce you, and then I will ask you to go through the presentation, and finally the demonstration that you will do with your software and capabilities that the tool have. Ken Smack is the managing director for ESM Software Company, an organization originally funded by Balance Scorecard creators, Drs. Kaplan and Norton. Mr. Smack has spent more than 20 years training, consulting, and implementing strategy software using Balance Scorecard, OKR, risk, compliance, and strategy-focused organization frameworks. He's an innovator of strategy management software that maximizes the value of cloud computing applications to end users. Mr. Smack is a certified expert in business improvement consulting, strategic planning, and developing balanced scorecard to manage and execute strategy. Mr. Smack manages the ESM business, oversees development and client account management, and research new methodology and reports on market awareness and movement of the strategic planning, strategy execution, risk, and compliance space. He has authored several Harvard-published articles on strategy reporting and software. So he's really an expert. So Kent, welcome to this webinar. Thank you for the very important and strategic alliance that we have developed with AMCG Group. So, and go ahead, please. I will stop my presentation and we will move from now with your computer. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Francisco. Everyone should be seeing my screen now. It's a pleasure to be here today. Not only did Francisco provide an excellent overview of the strategy execution framework, but also we now not only continue our education on strategy management, but you get to practice your English as well. So to make it a little bit easier, while I'm speaking in English, all of the slides as well as my demonstration will be in Spanish to aid those along. So as Francisco had mentioned, I've spent my career within strategy management, strategy execution. Doctors Kaplan and Norton are the founders of our organization. Over 1,000 of our clients are captured in the 5 books that you see here, co-published with Harvard Business School Publishing. Our framework is proven. It's a methodology that has stood the test of time. We have evolved to this framework as we have implemented it within organizations, and we have pulled the best practices and capabilities, incorporated that within our platforms. ESM Strategy is the core software platform that I will be sharing with you today, but I will also be sharing the connection to organizations who are interested in ESM OKR for objective key results, ESM Perform for evaluating employee performance, conducting 360-degree reviews and cultural surveys, as well as ESM Cyber for cybersecurity, compliance, and risk management. So I'm very excited to be here today to share with you these frameworks. All of you should be familiar with the concept of a strategy map. What we are doing is taking the strategy that you have created and we are bringing it to life. We are lighting it up and interacting with that strategy. There's a saying that culture, right, will eat strategy for breakfast. And what's most important is, in order to have a sustainable strategy reporting environment, you need to educate the employees, you need to empower the workforce to understand the strategy, and you need to make strategy part of everyone's everyday work, so employees understand how they fit into the strategy. And that's exactly what taking your strategy and incorporating it into a software does. It opens it up, it creates transparency and focus by the organization. The software platform, and these are all screenshots that I will be showing you live in just a moment, but the software platform is able to consolidate your information into very clean looking, balanced scorecards for a very clear understanding of performance with red, yellow, and green status indicators. We're able to create alignment views that span across an organization. These tend to be favorite views by executive leaders because you're able to see your entire organization strategy in one view. You're able to see how the different business areas, support areas, risk, cybersecurity, compliance, how they all support one another, all towards the corporate or high-level strategy. We're able to view risk heat maps. We're able to bring to life your risk and the key risk indicators and risk mitigation activities you are doing. We're able to create the connections between the risks as well as the higher level strategy, so there's a clear understanding of the impact those risks could have. We can drill down into any business area, from HR to IT to sales to marketing to cybersecurity. We're able to articulate what is most important within these areas of the business so that the executives are able to focus on the critically few important strategic areas and make sound decisions based off of sound financial analysis and real live data. As we've evolved these frameworks over the years, we have expanded into various compliance and cybersecurity models. So we have proven frameworks from NIST privacy to all ISO 27001, ISO 9000, ISO 13485, many different ISO compliance frameworks, cybersecurity maturity model certification. All of these are proven frameworks and methodologies where ESM has the full template that we can drop into your environment, and your team can actually start managing their compliance posture so that they are essentially audit ready when it comes to managing their cybersecurity risk and compliance. At the end of the day, what we are trying to do is empower executives and managers to be able to make sound business decisions. And the way that we do that is we tee up the most important strategic architecture, typically visualized through strategy maps and scorecards. We light up with red, yellow, green status indicators to communicate levels of performance. And then the leadership team is empowered in real time to be able to drill down into off-track areas to identify what happened and what are we going to do about it. Those are the important questions that we should be asking as we drill down into off-track strategic areas. We can critically analyze the measures, the data, the analysis behind the objective into the underlying initiatives and arrive at action items. Action items are the decisions we're making as management, as leadership teams, that are the takeaway points coming out of the review meetings that require follow-up and follow-through. That is taking strategy and is making it actionable within an organization. That creates a sustainable strategy review meeting environment. I will also be sharing with you today ESM Perform. I will take you down into how employees build personal goal plans, development plans, how managers can interact with their employees and create alignment up to the higher level strategy. Both personal goals can be created as well as team-based goals that are dictated to employees. And through self-assessment and review processes, employees are aligned to the strategy and they are being evaluated against their contribution to the strategy. We're able to generate personal reports for employees, goal plan reports, so it becomes a very aligned process and an organized process, all from the top level strategy right down to the individual contribution of the employee. We can help organizations get work done through ESM OKR. We're able to create personal views for how individuals connect to their OKRs. We're able to empower employees to talk about the activities they are doing to getting their work done. And OKR has a much more quick and rapid cadence and drumbeat so that we are empowering employees on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis around the work that they're doing that supports a higher level OKR, which can ultimately connect up to the higher level strategic objectives, measures, and initiatives. I now want to move over and segue into a demonstration of ESM strategy. So I am live in the system. I've logged in as an executive who has full administration rights. So I have a lot of access. I have a lot of information available to me. This view is very different for an employee who might just manage an objective or a measure or an initiative. So it provides a lot of flexibility based off of user access roles and rights in terms of how simple or complex your views might be. So just to give you a flavor, I'm at the corporate level. This is a visual strategy map. This is a balanced scorecard. This is a governance calendar which captures all of the initiatives, milestones, tasks, action items, anything with a date, reoccurring review meetings. So from month to month, I am able to see exactly what is going on around my strategy execution. This is an interactive calendar. We can push email alerts off to individuals. So as part of this environment, I want to speak for a moment about how this environment is organized. So you can have different business areas cascading their strategy down into different support areas, business units, functions. So there is that capability within the system. So we are doing is we are creating an alignment view of the strategy. So we can see how the organization is aligned. And that also communicates areas of performance that might need to be addressed. So here from the corporate level, we can see alignment of their objectives with supporting initiatives. And then we can see how risk management, Europe, Americas, Asia Pacific, cybersecurity, additional business groups are all supporting the higher level objectives. And this environment is fully flexible where we can now look from an objective, a measure, an initiative view to understand the alignment of the business. Here we can see how the measures are now aligned across the business. So there's interaction, a breaking down of the silos between business areas, and we are empowering the organization to come together and report on strategy. So these are summary views that I have taken you through as part of the system. I now want to just continue, and I want to share with you how you can have your own custom view within this application. So you may decide that you want to use different terms and objectives, measures, initiatives. Maybe you prefer strategies or KPIs or activities or programs. So there's full flexibility when we navigate from scorecard to scorecard or environment to environment. Now we are in ESM Cyber. We're looking at a risk environment, right? We can now go down into a cybersecurity view. So we could go into a cybersecurity maturity model certification view, and we're now able to see different compliance frameworks. So I want you to think beyond just strategy map to how you can visualize your data, right? Organize that data within an environment. So I'm going to bring it back up to the corporate scorecard level. We're going to go back to just the simple strategy view, but it's important that you understand the context of data from underlying different business areas that might look at risk management or cybersecurity or IT, and they might use different terminology. So we are fully flexible to be able to render those different terms throughout the system. So here we are. We're in our quarterly review meeting, and what we are able to do as a system is we can lock down historical performance, right? So we have data integrity around historical data, but we can also then report out and capture future targets and trends as part of the business. Whether you report out monthly or quarterly or twice a year or once a year, it's entirely up to you. The system is fully flexible. So I want to start out today's demonstration by taking you through how an organization will report on their strategy. And to do that, I'm going to use this top menu to drill down into objectives, measures, and initiatives. And we're going to talk about the strategy, and we're going to make decisions. Those decisions are going to become our action items for follow-up and follow-through. So as part of that, let's pretend that we've all come together to report on the performance of our quarterly strategy. We can see red, yellow, green status indicators denoting how we are performing as an organization. We might celebrate our greens. Great job, team, right? But then really focus in and dedicate a majority of that time on the yellows and the reds. So we can click into this interactive strategy, and we can drill down into off-track performance areas. So I just clicked in the objective, give me a top quality product experience. Here's my objective right here. Now, sitting behind that objective is a relationship of the data. As Francisco said, the connection between objectives and measures and initiatives and bridging the gap. What we are doing here is we are serving up meaningful information so that leadership teams can make thoughtful decisions. And that might be drilling down into the measure, understanding the data behind the performance of that measure. It also means understanding what happened, what is the analysis, and what, most importantly, do we recommend we do about it. These are the critical discussions that we're having as a management team. Because I am the advocate or the owner of this objective, I help facilitate that discussion with my peers, the leadership team. I'm suggesting specific recommendations, and then it's up to us as a management team to take action. Those are the decisions we're making during that strategy review meeting that bring the strategy to life. We capture those action items live in the review meeting, so we can assign clear accountability for those actions. Those individuals can get email alerts as part of following up on these actions. So we're engaging people within the strategy. As I scroll down here, we can see people score. This is employees within ESM perform and how they are supporting this area of the strategy. And I'll drill down into ESM perform in just a moment. We can drill down deeper into the underlying indicators. We can also drill down into the initiatives. And that's where I want to go. I want to go down into the underlying initiatives to talk about how the initiatives are supporting the strategy. But I also want you to know that because we are in a cascaded scorecard environment, I showed you the different business areas, Americas, in Europe, in Asia Pacific, in finance, right? And we can see corporate risk management here. So these are the areas of the strategy that are connected, breaking down the silos, I like to say. They are connected, so we understand the underpinnings and what's feeding into the performance of this area of the strategy. Your business in control. That is what we are doing here. Finally, here's the initiative. So as a leadership team, we started out on that strategy map. We drilled down into the objective, the off-track measure, and now we're at the initiative. And now it's important for us to understand, why is this initiative behind plan? What is the analysis? What are the recommendations? If we need to link off to external data or an external project management system, absolutely fine. Many organizations will actively manage all of their milestones and tasks, complete with due dates and owners and accountability directly in ESM. So ESM stands for Executive Strategy Manager. At the end of the day, we are trying to empower managers and executives with the data around their strategy so that they can make smart decisions and take action against it. If you are an organization who is very mature with project management, by all means, link off to the projects. We can import that data into ESM for the executive view. Executives don't need to see all the details. They need enough information to be able to make smart decisions. And ultimately, those decisions get captured as action items. Action items are those takeaway points coming out of the review meetings. I like to say many times they're the notes that may or may not get followed up on, that go on people's notebooks. Well, now we are capturing them in the system. We are mapping each action item back to the relevant strategic element. We are assigning clear accountability for follow-up and follow-through. So as part of a healthy strategy review meeting cadence and architecture, those action items are constantly being addressed and followed up on a regular basis. So as you can see, we then go back up to the strategy map and then drill down into the next off-track strategic area. So that, in essence, is pulling together many decades of best practices and research that we have done as an organization through implementation work, and we have brought it to life within ESM. Now, I talked about the governance calendar, right? We talked about those reoccurring action items, maybe weekly action item briefings. So strategy is not just a once a quarter exercise. It is where we are actively engaging audiences and teams into the performance of the strategy. So to drill home that point, I want to show you some additional summary views. So these are just nice views that may be attractive to you in terms of how you could incorporate them into your ongoing reporting for your business. So we're able to see measures in the relationships of cascaded measures and how they roll up. So we can see the underlying data and where it is coming from. We can see lists of measures and pull in summary owners and views. We can view trends, and we can see how measures in the context of their objective with the targets and actual data and how they are trending over time on a monthly, quarterly, year-end basis. We can view heat maps of measures, which I don't have built out in this view. But at the initiative level, I do have heat maps built out where we can view specific initiatives and how they are supporting the strategy. So we can see the must-dos, the need-to-dos, the should-dos, and the could-dos. So the incorporation of matrices and heat maps empowers an organization to understand what are the critical activities or initiatives we must get done as a business, and then what are the nice-to-haves, right? So we're able to view these types of summary views to empower you as a team to understand the strategy, take action against it. Many organizations utilize Gantt charts, visualizations of their initiatives, their milestones, and their tasks over time. These are interactive Gantt charts that allow me to drill right down into that initiative if appropriate. So I'm now down in that same initiative I showed you earlier through the Gantt chart. So these are very flexible views that empower you to render the data that's most important to you. So you might say, I want to put measures or KPIs behind my initiatives. Well, what we can do is we can create an initiative KPI layout, and we can incorporate KPIs behind those initiatives. So I'm now viewing that same initiative, but maybe I'm part of the initiative team around implement system productivity improvements. And now I can view very specific initiative level KPIs. It could be financial, budgetary data. It could be some of the tasks around the accomplishment of this initiative. So these are all fully flexible views that are empowering you to manage your strategy in a healthy manner. Now, I want to move over and I want to speak for a moment about dashboards. Dashboards are a very powerful way to pull together lots of data into very meaningful views. Dashboards can be built out for individuals. That means I could build a dashboard out for Francisco. I could build a dashboard out for my CFO, my CIO, and I could share that dashboard out with them. So now the strategy team is empowered to share meaningful views and information across the organization. How do you do that? You go right into share dashboard and you choose the individuals or the teams or organization-wide that you're going to share the dashboard with. So you could actually run an entirely strategy, cybersecurity, risk meeting right from these dashboards. Here's an example of how we are bringing together organizations and breaking down the silos. This is a corporate strategy and risk dashboard. So what that means is we have our strategy and our risk side by side so we can understand what are the off-track KPIs. What are the off-track corporate objectives? What are the off-track corporate risks, right? And off-track corporate risks and risk KPIs associated with the business. So these are views that are now empowering us to have discussions. We can capture hot corporate risk topics that we need to discuss. ESM has the ability to nominate objectives, measures, and initiatives for discussion. So you can nominate them and they will show up on your agenda page as part of a strategy review meeting. We can capture corporate risk mitigation initiatives. So we're not just looking at corporate strategy and then HR strategy and then risk and then cybersecurity and isolation. We can bring that information together into very meaningful views that are empowering your executives to really understand the business and what is happening. Let me share with you a couple other sample dashboards just to talk a little bit more about these capabilities. So if I'm a finance guy and I'm managing my revenue, my costs, right? I may want to pull together my EBITDA from all the different business areas. I could pull together certain cost metrics, and I'm pulling together this data across the organization. So it's not scorecard by scorecard, but it's organization-wide, where we can raise up and we can provide that CFO with the most important, meaningful data based off of the work that individual is doing. If I'm part of a project management office, so I oversee the projects for the organization, let's build a dashboard out for the PMO, the project management office, and we can provide high-level performance summary, high-level metrics. We can see our global initiative and milestone and task performance, initiative spend. We can see key initiatives for the business, key measures or KPI charts against it. So these dashboards are very exciting in a way that they're pulling all of this information together, right, for an organization to really effectively manage their strategy. So bringing it back to the risk team, we can have a global office of risk management that pulls together risks across each one of the different business areas. And we can drill in and understand what are the off-track risks within those areas, right? It's being able to drill down. And for all of you who are strategy office managers, we can pull together a global view into your entire organization's strategy. So we can look across all the different businesses. And this is a dashboard that shows us what's going across on where the reds are within our Europe, within our Americas, within our finance, so on and so forth. So it's an excellent way in which we're summarizing the performance of data across the organization and sharing it with various teams. Hopefully you find that empowering. Many organizations we work with find that being able to utilize dashboards gives them ultimate flexibility. So how do we get started? And I'm going to share with you a very simple view. I want to just talk to you about how we can easily get started with building out our scorecard and our strategy maps. ESM can upload data from Excel. You can also go into your rapid design and you can literally start clicking in, building out your perspectives, your objectives, your measures, adding new measures, editing existing measures, adding initiatives. This is a fully interactive environment that empowers you to build the relationships live as you are constructing your balanced scorecard. We have all the capabilities to capture objectives, measures, initiatives. We have best practice guidance sitting behind all of them. Initiative management. We have full initiative prioritization. Helping organizations mature their initiative management approach is critically important to us. To do that, we empower you to identify all of your initiatives, capture weightings and criteria for evaluation, positive and negative, and evaluate and score each one of your initiatives against that criteria. So we are empowering you to make smart decisions, objective decisions around the performance of your initiatives. We have full document and report generation capabilities. So we have the ability to predefine and schedule reports. So you can have reports that are scheduled to be sent out on a reoccurring basis, right? So if you have a weekly action item report, a bi-weekly initiative report, all of that can be automatically scheduled and generated to be sent out across the organization. And I just want to take for a moment to share with you a couple samples. Here's an Excel export, right? of what you might find through an export of ESM. And here are a couple other sample reports. Here's a strategy map with performance detail pages, right? And this is all sample exports that we have pulled out of the system. Here's our project management view. Here's our Global Office of Strategy view. So these are all documents that can be automatically generated and sent out across to the businesses. So hopefully that gives you a flavor for the types of reports and information that we are able to pull out of ESM and send out with the right level of detail based off of who that audience is. So bringing it back to strategy, we have a lot of capabilities. Today was not meant to capture all of the components of ESM strategy, but I wanted to give a quick flavor for you for what it's like using ESM strategy to bring your strategy to life. With that said, I want to take just a couple minutes now to share with you the connection points to ESM Perform as well as to ESM OKR. Moving from ESM strategy, cyber risk compliance now into ESM Perform. This is where we empower employees working with their manager to build out personal goal plans and development plans. So we think of as a goal plan as just a personal scorecard with goals, measures, and initiatives. These are the things that I am focused on as an employee. I can capture those. I prefer that the goals map up to higher level strategic objectives, measures, and initiatives, but we don't force it. You can absolutely have personal goals that just don't map up, and we see that that is natural. We can also capture team-based goals, goals that we are forcing employees to engage with. So there's full flexibility in terms of the goals that we assign to individuals, as well as the goals that they collaborate with their manager to build out. We can go through an approval process, a self-assessment, review, and acceptance. This is a very common framework for managing personal goal plans or personal scorecards. Individuals can also build out development plans if they want, developmental initiatives, and understanding how they assign to different competencies that the organization is focused on. So ESM Perform is an excellent way to create linkages between employees and their own performance all the way up to the higher level strategy. So I now want to just finish by talking briefly about the incorporation of ESM OKR. OKR, I'd like to say, objective key results, is about getting work done. So whether you're in an objective, measure, or initiative detail page, ESM has the ability to create the connections down to ESM OKR. So let me just share with you that for a moment. I'm going to bring in a layout here that includes linked OKRs. So we may drill down as part of a business discussion into our initiative. We can see the high-level activities around that, the mapping to objectives, the milestones, the tasks. But then we have the ability to link off OKRs to it. Think of this as kind of an agile-based project management, day-to-day, every bi-weekly sprint where employees are talking about how they're contributing and their OKRs are linking up to the strategy. So now I'm within ESM OKR and I can have employees that can view their OKRs. They can see an overall performance of their OKRs. They can see recent activity with what's going on around the OKRs, driving collaboration within the business, and then they can see their OKRs. They can literally click right in. They can make edits to this. They can save it. It's a running commentary. It's meant to be a very quick, iterative-based process for managing OKRs. We can capture individual OKRs. We can capture team-based OKRs, so we can collaborate across teams. We can see how different individuals are performing, different teams are performing, and we can also capture company-wide OKRs, OKRs that map across the enterprise. OKRs can be built out as both private as well as public. So private OKRs can only be seen by the individuals you assign them to. public OKRs can be shared. We create visual linkages and connections between OKRs. And then we can also create high-level analytics and insights. Here's an overall performance of an organization's OKRs. We can see team-based performance. We can see the OKRs that are active, that have been marked complete, which means done, successful, and then expired. Naturally, expired OKRs are cause for concern. It means that that team, in this case, the cybersecurity team, did not complete a security vulnerability patch. The time has lapsed since it expired, so we need to address what happened, what went on around that. So it gives us a cockpit, if you will, a view into our overall OKR performance. So with that said, I'm going to bring it back up to strategy. And I just want to conclude this demonstration by highlighting that ESM is empowered to meet you where you are at in your strategy management maturity. So we can support you with the creation of strategy. We can support you with the reporting, ongoing management and execution of strategy, the connection of strategy down into ESM OKR for getting work done, perform, for managing employee performance management. With that said, this was not meant to be a complete demo, but more of an introduction to the platforms. So if you'd like to learn more, we would encourage you to work with us and schedule some detailed demos. So with that said, I'm just going to bring it back over and we will move down to our question stage, and I'll turn it back over to Francisco.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you for such a great presentation and demonstration on what ESM can do for the strategy and the elements for the organization. So we want to open up for question and answers at this point. So who is ready to make the first question?
And please feel comfortable doing it all in Spanish. I'm happy to answer with translation.
Por supuesto, ¿quién se anima? Si prefieren hacerlo en español o como se sientan más cómodos. Vamos, no se sientan tímidos. Los invitamos
I would like to ask the group if you could see a framework like this coming to life in your organization. Are you doing some of these aspects today of best practice strategy management? Or could you see something like this framework coming to life? Could you see this working with your organization?
Any experience to share with us today?
Francisco, everyone may be overwhelmed by all the data and information. So I do apologize.
No, that's okay. Usually with this time of presentations, people are trying to, digest the different elements. But for sure, whenever the people start thinking about how they operate in their own organizations, they see how these elements relates, because this is pretty common. And when they see how they manage the different issues that they have to deal with, they see that reality.
And what we find is organizations that see those connections between the business, so strategy, corporate, cascaded business areas, even if you consider risk in cyber, they can rapidly mature their business understanding of strategy, the interdependencies between the strategy, and create those connections. And that's when you start to see, I like to say, the light bulbs go off in the room, where managers now understand the levers they have to pull to drive the business results they're seeking.
Yeah,
that's
actually, Kent, I would like to ask you, you can elaborate a little bit more on how can you see the relation between a risk map and the strategic map because many times it's quite difficult for people to integrate the risk elements with the strategy and the strategy map. Can you elaborate a little bit on that, please?
Absolutely, and I'll use some visuals here. So I've actually incorporated some specific risks from the corporate risk scorecard. I'm on the corporate business scorecard right here. So we're on corporate, but I'm pulling in some linked risks right into this scorecard view. So we can see those listed out right here. And what a best practice we've seen in this space is risk is not managed in isolation. So while you can have your corporate risk environment, and I encourage you to do that with heat maps and with a risk register, right? Capturing these risks, but all of these risks are they're actually mapped up to the different business areas, because there's a reason why we have these risks and measurements and risk mitigation activities. We're trying to mitigate against any potential of us not accomplishing the higher level objectives. So the pure function of risk and risk management is to protect us from not being able to achieve the objectives when we think about strategic risk. Now, I'm keeping that very narrow right now, but some might ask, well, what about environmental risk, or, things like COVID risk, right? There are risks that you can and can't control for, so you can also segment. I'm talking mainly about strategic risks. So how do the strategic risks, right, come into play? But you can also have hazard, operational risk, financial risk, environmental risk. So you can compartmentalize those risks and manage those. Those may not relate to the strategy directly. We know that it can impact business performance. But when I'm talking about strategic risk management, I encourage the organization to actually link these risks right up to the higher level corporate business objectives, so that we can understand how they sit side by side. And that's what I was showing you earlier within the dashboards, and the ability to show, right, a dashboard that puts strategy and risk side by side. And that's what this view ultimately does. It empowers the organization to understand the strategy and the risks against that strategy, and have a meaningful discussion around your business objectives and your corporate risks. Does that make sense, Francisco? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's really very important to have that in mind whenever we talk about the objectives and the things like that, because many times companies just realize the importance of consider the risk impact when they see that results are not exactly the ones they were expecting, because of not considering the reality and the impact that the risk may have in their projections, in their operations. So it's really great to have the opportunity to make the match, to make the relationship, and to see the perspective, always having the objectives, the way that we will develop them, and the risk associated with that.
That's right.
Absolutely. ¿Alguna pregunta adicional? Okay, I believe it's 10 o'clock. It's exactly the time that we were expecting to have. Once again, Ken, thank you very much for not just for this presentation, but also for the partnership that we have within both companies. And for all of our friends, we invite you to go back to our web page and see the presentation and also this video, and we'll be able to answer any question later on whatever you may want to see further on. So, muchas gracias a todos. Un gusto haberlos tenido en este webinar. La presentación y el webinar estará en nuestra página, así que cualquier información adicional, aquí están nuestros datos. Encantados de contestar cualquier inquietud que ustedes puedan tener. Muchas gracias a todos y buen día.